as to what the spreadsheets would say, and I think those were the positions where the discrepancies came up, and then we've just decided let's get to the SOPs.
Have you been told why they've cancelled the verification process?
It is not cancelled. As far as we know, is that GCOM, the commissioners and so on, are still meeting, and when they've concluded that meeting, then we're going to find obviously a way forward.
Do you know who's working in the absence of Mr. Mingo? Who's taking these duties?
I just got here maybe about an hour ago. I've just been engaged in discussions with our team in there. So at this point, I cannot answer that question.
How confident are you that the election process so far has been free and fair?
Well, I think nationally we have seen some fantastic performance in terms of what GCOM would have done and what the agents would have done. It is now, but the process is not concluded yet. We're hopeful that what comes out of tonight, once again, is integrity. And I've said this multiple times. I'd rather have results that have the integrity, and I will sacrifice experience for integrity any day. Because if we don't get that, what is going to happen is that we'll end up in courts for a long drawn-out process, which would not satisfy the country. I'm sure it would not satisfy the political parties.
Based on what you've learned in there, do you know when we may probably get a final result?
The law makes a provision for 15 days for this exercise to be completed, and if it takes that time to ensure once again that we have the integrity in the ballots, then that is what we're going to subscribe to.
I know the legal timeline, but have you been able to glean when all of this will be over?
That is not my determination. It all depends on what comes out next from the Guyana Elections Commission and how fast we can move forward with this process.
Based on what's expected, what the law states, you're prepared to go the duration?
Absolutely, absolutely. If the law makes a provision for something, then we have to be prepared to ensure that we respect the law.
As far as the discrepancies are concerned, do you know who made the allegations that there were discrepancies?
Well, the CEO took some random sampling, and from those random samplings, it was discovered. I cannot speak on behalf of the other parties, but once again, we have not been disposed to the SOPs, so it becomes difficult for us to do that. And us as a party, the New Movement, and TCI, we have requested the SOPs to ensure that whatever comes out of here, once again, that the nation can stand on.
Have you obtained any explanation as to why parties that did not contest in certain regions were actually awarded votes?
And once again, thank you for your question. I think that goes back to why we are requesting the SOPs. Take, for example, the Liberty and Justice Party did not contest in Berbice, but yet we saw some discrepancies in there. I think we got 2 votes based on the information we're getting. Also, FedUp did not contest in Region 4, but yet there are votes on certain spreadsheets for FedUp. So we have to address that. Right? Thank you. Yes, I just came out to see Critic. Before you go, and while I have you here, one of the things that I wanted to ask is for the nation to at least be patient. We have waited over a year and a half for this, well, close to a year and a half. And I think if we were to wait 15 days, it would not be a terrible thing. A year and a half compared to 15 days, the law makes provision for it. And I would simply ask for all of our supporters, those of the AP and UAFC, and those of the PPP, to simply be patient and let the Guyana Elections Commission do its job and do it effectively, so that when we get out of this, the nation will see a long period of rest.
Well, if you can look back at the last election, it was on May 11th, and nothing happened until May 16th. So again, there is a precedent for this thing to be going on for
11 to 16, that is only 5 days. So we don't have an issue with that.
We're in day 3 right now. So again,
correct.
If you look at that as a precedent, we're just 3 days into it. So
right, but our understanding is that there are forces, irresponsible forces, that are making false declaration. Which camp those originate from, that is for them to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. We now have Mr. Marajak to give us a perspective of what's
So, as you're aware, last night they started the verification of the statements of poll for Region 4. So they had gone through quite a few, and then at about 2 a.m., unexpectedly they stopped. They said they would resume this morning. Now the process that was used was the RO would call out the statements of poll, their numbers, and then all the parties will decide whether they had a variance, and they accepted that. So they did not restart this morning. Then we heard Mr. Mingo fell ill, and then at 1 p.m. they resumed this with a spreadsheet from somewhere. We don't know who prepared this spreadsheet. Now the law says, like, and once what's done in all the regions, that you have to use statements of poll in the verification. They came with a spreadsheet and started to call out list boxes from the spreadsheet. In 23 places that they called out, in 17 of those, they had APNU with at least 100 votes more than that are on the statement of poll. So everyone objected. The observers, the political parties, everyone objected to this. Then Mr. Lowenfield came down himself and he did a random sample. He took 3 of them, and he found that in each of these 3 cases, you had at least 100 votes more for APNU. That is on the statement of poll. Now they have copies of the statement of poll. The parties have copy of the statement of poll. We don't know who generated this list. And so that is the issue right now. The entire diplomatic community is here. The entire observer group is here. They have to go back to the law. There's we don't know who generated this list that they started using.
Did anybody else who generated
And so that is going to come later. Right now we want, because the people of this country are waiting for verified results. They've had declarations in all the regions using that very process, statements of poll. Here in Region 4, they want to use a list generated by someone. So now we have to ensure that the law is followed. The APNU agents seem to be the only ones with this list that the GRICOM is using. Nobody else has it. So we first of all have to get back to the process of verifying all the statements of poll in Region 4 to see that they're accurate, and then have the results declared for Region 4. If parties then have a concern, they can ask for a recount. They have up to noon of the following day to ask for a recount. But that is what is necessary now. So, because the people of this country are waiting for verified results. But we are not going to compromise the process. I heard about preparations, picture of preparations for swearing-in ceremony at the office of the president. It's all fake. This is to create the impression that APNU won the elections. We have our numbers. We made a commitment that we will not declare when we sign to that pledge. Dr. Ali signed on to the pledge with President Granger that no party shall declare until GCOM makes the final declaration. We've been keeping this. We have our numbers. We've inputted every statement of poll from across the country. We have verified it. We shared it. The observers have it. They know this. So we didn't use call-in data. We used the statements of poll. It shows an unassailable, a huge lead for the PPP. So,
does that include Region 4, that lead?
That's massive. Across the country and in Region 4, I shouldn't tell you. That would be declaring the result, what I promised not to do.
How long are you prepared to wait, sir, for this process?
The process, the country has to understand that we have to have verified results. All the people, APNU supporters as well as PPP supporters, they want verified results. And if it takes 2 days more to get that done, then that's fine with us. Because then you announce on verified results. So that is it. The whole country has had their declarations, almost every region, and they're stalling in Region 4, just stalling, all the time stalling the process. They could have continued last night. By now we would have been, if they had gone with the statement of poll that Mr. Mingo started with, and then we would have already had results by now in Region 4. They stopped it. I suspected, let me tell you this, that they wanted Mr. Mingo to use this spreadsheet. And he knows the law, and Mr. Mingo refused to use the spreadsheet because he was started off using the statement of poll for 310 boxes in Georgetown. And there are just a few more remaining, I think 70 odd boxes remaining for Georgetown, around that level, from last night to verify. And then you go to East Bank and East Coast.
So the
And
71 had the discrepancies?
no, not the Georgetown. So they didn't complete Georgetown. They decided to move to East Bank now. And then suddenly they came not with these SOPs, they came with a list and started calling out numbers from this list, and every list had discrepancies. So the observers objected, also pointed this out, and the PPP and other parties.
What's the consensus right now? To go back to the
No.
SOPs?
Recounts can't be done now. Recounts can only be done after the declaration is made by the RO.
What's the consensus right now to go back to the SOPs?
This is what they're deciding now. The entire consensus among the observers and the political parties is that you go except in APNU. So this is where we are. And right now they're just raising the temperature of the country unnecessarily by talking about an APNU victory, and they would let people down. They would let those young kids and others mislead them.
So what can you tell them at this time?
The public, I'd say, stay calm. The GCOM should announce the results at some point in time. The key thing is that they announce verified results and that are done in the presence of APNU, the PPP, the international observers, everyone. And once that's done, then the country will know who won the elections based on official data. Parties claiming victory when they know that it's very different will just mislead people.
You said your party is way ahead. From a percentage standpoint, could you just give us a snapshot of where you're talking
But if I do that,
a snapshot.
I don't really want to, because I don't want to undermine the MOU. It's more than the majority the last government had. It's more than the majority the last government, and significantly more.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
So that was presidential candidate for the Liberty and Justice Party, Lennox Truman, and General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, Barrett Jagdeo, after their exited meeting at the GCOM office at High and Hatfield Street, where they're trying to sort out the verification of statements of polls for Region 4. Earlier in the day, the returning officer, Mr. Claremont Mingo, collapsed here and was taken to the GPHC, where he was then discharged, but it seems that someone else has taken over his post. According to Mr. Jagdeo, the GCOM chairman and commissioners, along with some others, are in a meeting to determine where to go from here.
You're watching coverage of elections 2020 here on the newsroom. You were just looking at the leader of the opposition, General Secretary of the PPP, Mr. Barrett Jagdeo, speaking there about the issues surrounding the verification of statements of polls for region number 4, the largest voting region in the country with 879 polling stations. The issue, as he has been explaining, is that there was a spreadsheet produced, and from that spreadsheet the results of the regions were being called, but the PPP and other observers were not certain where that spreadsheet came from. They don't know where it originated from, how the numbers were arrived at, but when they compared it with the actual statements of polls that they had, there were major discrepancies. The General Secretary of the PPP, Mr. Barrett Jagdeo, explaining there, after speaking with the media, you notice he went back into the office of the returning officer. They're still trying to make a decision on how to move forward. The public relations officer of GCOM had stated that the chief elections officer decided to end the process of verification, but Mr. Jagdeo explaining there that the CEO came down and he took a sampling of the statements of polls and checked that against the spreadsheet with the results that were being announced to party agents and observers, and he noticed discrepancies. And so a decision yet to be communicated to us, the media, about what is exactly happening in GCOM. It has been over 24 hours since the Guyana Elections Commission has updated the media on the verification process for the statements of polls. But as we have been reporting, results in 8 regions have thus far been declared, with the PPP having control of 6 regions and APNU plus AFC controlling 2 of those regions. The results that are yet to come in, of course, from region number 4 and also from region number 7, where there were 55 polling stations, the smallest number of polling stations of the 10 electoral districts or the 10 electoral regions. So we can now share with you the verified results that have been declared in the regions, in those 8 regions thus far.